The golden rays of the early morning sun filtered through the cracks of a small wooden hut nestled deep in the countryside of the Philippines. Inside, 12-year-old Althea stood barefoot on the cool bamboo floor, humming softly as she washed dishes beside her mother. Her voice, pure and tender, floated through the air, blending with the rustling of the trees and the distant crowing of roosters. Her mother, tired from a long night of sewing clothes for neighbors, paused for a moment to listen. A faint smile touched her lips. "Your voice is a gift from heaven, Anak," she whispered. "One day, the world will hear you sing." Althea only smiled shyly. "Ma, who would listen to a poor girl like me?" Her mother placed a gentle hand on her cheek. "God listens. And maybe one day, others will too." Outside, children laughed as they ran past their hut, but Althea stayed where she was, her mind filled with dreams too big for her small world. She imagined bright lights, a grand stage, and people clapping not because she was rich or famous, but because her song touched their hearts. Later that evening, she sat by the window, gazing at the stars. The village was quiet, except for the soft hum of crickets. She began to sing again, this time a melody she made up herself, a song about hope, about faith, about the 25 prophets her grandmother had once told her stories about. Her voice rose into the night sky, delicate but powerful, carrying her dreams beyond the rice fields and over the mountains. In that moment, even the stars seemed to listen, as if heaven itself was preparing her for something extraordinary. A month had passed since that night under the stars. Life in the small village went on as usual, Althea helping her mother wash clothes by the river, singing softly as they worked. But one afternoon, everything changed. Her teacher, Sir Ramon, stopped by their home holding a small phone in his hand. "Althea," he said excitedly, "remember that video I took of you singing at the school program? I posted it online last week. It's gone viral, thousands of people have watched it." Althea blinked in disbelief. "Viral? What does that mean, sir?" Her mother, confused but curious, leaned closer. Sir Ramon smiled. "It means the world has finally heard your voice. And there's more, someone from Ireland's Got Talent just emailed me. They want you to audition." Tears filled her mother's eyes. "From our small barrio, to the world," she whispered. But the excitement was mixed with fear. They had no money for fancy clothes or travel expenses. For a while, it seemed impossible. Yet, the entire village came together, the neighbors donated coins, the local pastor offered prayers, and Sir Ramon contacted a charity to cover her flight. When the day came, Althea clutched her small backpack, just a few clothes, her rosary, and her mother's photo inside. At the airport, she looked around in awe, overwhelmed by the noise and lights. It was her first time seeing an airplane up close. Her mother hugged her tightly, whispering, "Never forget where you came from, Anak. Sing for him, and for us." As the plane lifted into the clouds, Althea pressed her face against the window. She whispered a prayer, her heart pounding with both fear and faith, knowing her journey had only just begun. Bright lights, glittering stage, and a sea of faces, Althea stood frozen at the center of it all. The iconic Ireland's Got Talent logo shone behind her, but she could barely see through the glare. Her small hands trembled as she gripped the microphone. This was nothing like the quiet nights in her village. Cameras pointed at her from every angle, and the judge's table gleamed just a few feet away. Simon Cowell leaned forward, studying her with his usual sharp, unreadable gaze. "Hello there," he said, his voice calm but intimidating. "What's your name, and where are you from?" Althea took a shaky breath. My name is Althea, I'm from the Philippines." Her accent was thick, her voice barely above a whisper. The audience murmured softly, some surprised, others curious. Simon nodded. "And what will you be singing for us today?" Her fingers clenched tighter around the mic. "A song I wrote myself, sir. It's called, The Song of the 25 Prophets. It's about faith, and how the world still needs hope." There was silence. Even the other judges looked intrigued, and a little confused. Simon raised an eyebrow but gave a small nod. "All right then, Althea. The stage is yours." The lights dimmed. A soft instrumental began to play, a haunting blend of piano and strings. Althea closed her eyes and whispered a short prayer in Tagalog under her breath. Then, she began to sing. Her first note was fragile, trembling, but pure. As the melody grew, her fear started to fade. Her voice filled the theater, carrying words about unity, love, and divine strength. The crowd leaned in, mesmerized. Even Simon's usual stoic expression softened, his eyes glistening slightly as something inside him began to stir. The moment Althea's voice soared into the second verse, something magical began to happen. The lights above her glowed warmer, softer, as if heaven itself leaned in to listen. Her song, the Song of the 25 Prophets, told stories of guidance, mercy, and faith, from Adam's first prayer to Muhammad's final message of peace. Each line carried both strength and innocence, woven together with emotion far beyond her 12 years. The audience sat in absolute silence. Even the cameras seemed to hold their breath. Her voice rose, pure and angelic, echoing through every corner of the theater. People in the crowd began to cry quietly, moved by the sincerity of her performance. When she reached the final verse, "The world forgets, but heaven remembers," a single tear rolled down Simon Cowell's cheek. He tried to blink it away, but the emotion was too real, too raw. The other judges exchanged glances, visibly stunned. Althea's last note hung in the air, long, clear, and heartbreakingly beautiful. Then, silence. For a heartbeat, no one moved. And then it happened. The entire theater rose to its feet. A thunderous standing ovation shook the room. The audience cheered, cried, clapped, and shouted her name. Althea covered her mouth, tears streaming down her face. Simon stood up slowly, still wiping his eyes. "I've judged thousands of singers," he said softly into the mic, "but this was divine." The golden buzzer light exploded above her, showering the stage in golden confetti. Althea looked up in disbelief, her small hands raised as she whispered, "Thank you, Lord." In that moment, the poor girl from a faraway village became a symbol of faith, hope, and heavenly talent. The next morning, the world woke up to a miracle. Clips of Althea's performance flooded the internet, millions of views, thousands of shares, and headlines that read, "Poor Filipino girl brings Simon Cowell to tears with a song about faith." In her small village back home, neighbors gathered around a tiny TV powered by a car battery. Her mother watched with trembling hands, tears falling freely as she saw her daughter on that glittering stage. "That's my baby," she whispered. She sang for God, and he listened. Meanwhile, across the globe, people of all backgrounds, Christians, Muslims, Jews, even those with no faith, shared her song, saying it reminded them of kindness, unity, and the divine spark inside every soul. It wasn't just a performance anymore, it was a message to humanity. A few days later, Althea sat down for a heartfelt interview. When the reporter asked what inspired her to write the Song of the 25 Prophets, she smiled shyly and said, "Greater than, my grandmother told me stories about the prophets who brought light to dark times. I just wanted to remind people that even if we're poor, even if no one knows our names, we can still carry that light." Simon Cowell himself posted a message online. "Greater than, I've seen many performances in my life, but this one reminded me what true music, and true faith, sound like." Althea's story spread beyond the show. Donations poured in to rebuild her family's home. But more than fame or fortune, what touched her most were the messages from people saying her song gave them hope again. From a humble village to the world stage, her voice became a living prayer, and the world never forgot it.